Clara's arthritic fingers brushed dust off Wuthering Heights, wedged between sofa cushions like a secret. 60 years old, still finding relics from Derek's era. Bloody man never could resist dog-earing pages. She snorted. Typical. Even his ghost left clutter. But beneath cracked leather, a slip of paper fluttered, Bookworm's arms, 3 p.m., bring a tearjerker. Memory punched through grief's fog, that raucous bookshop fam, sticky toffee pudding debates, Derek's terrible Bronte impressions. Clara's arthritic fingers brushed dust off Wuthering Heights, its spine cracked like her own knees after decades of London drizzle. 60 years had taught her books outlived people, a truth as comforting as it was cruel. Yet here she stood, wedged between sagging shelves in a Camden bookshop, clutching that battered novel like an apology. Grief had turned her into a ghost haunting her own life, but today, she'd try stepping back into skin. Bookshop's community swap was her daughter's idea. Fam needs you, she'd texted, tossing in emojis like confetti. Clara had scoffed, but loneliness had a way of gnawing through pride. Now, surrounded by paperbacks and strangers, she felt like a misplaced comma in someone else's sentence. Her deepest fear? That sorrow had erased her, leaving only an outline where a woman once laughed over tea and plotted mischief with dog-eared pages. Then, a miracle wrapped in mundanity. A silver-haired bloke tripped over a stack of penguins, sending Pride and Prejudice skidding toward her feet. Clara's chuckle surprised even her. She handed it back, their fingers brushing like tentative pen pals. By evening, she'd swapped Bronte for a memoir, its margins scribbled with notes from some previous owner. Proof that stories, and people, weren't meant to sit untouched. London's skyline blurred past shop window, but inside, something sharpened. That old novel had been her mother's, its margins a battlefield of exclamation points. Letting it go felt like loosening a fist she hadn't known was clenched. Maybe healing wasn't about moving on, but moving with, carrying love forward in dog-eared corners and shared sentences. By closing time, Clara signed up for next month. Clara's arthritic fingers brushed dust off Wuthering Heights, its spine cracked like her own knees after rainy London mornings. She hadn't meant to start a movement, just needed somewhere quiet to miss James without well-meaning neighbors offering casseroles. But fate had a plot twist. Browsing a musty bookshop event, Classic Lit and Biscuits, she tripped over a stack of Dickens, sending Great Expectations airborne. A silver-haired man caught it mid-air, grinning. Bit dramatic for a Tuesday, love. Marcus, retired librarian, became her first recruit. His suggestion? Swap grief memoirs for dog-eared adventures. Sadness needs an antagonist, he said. So they began, leave a book, take one, scribble notes in margins like passing secrets to strangers. Word spread faster than tube delays. Soon, their crew included Anjali, a sari-clad grandma who hid romance novels behind her Bhagavad Gita cover, and fiery Maureen, who declared Pride and Prejudice a manual for dealing with idiots. Meetings spilled from bookshops to parks, where Clara learned to navigate WhatsApp polls for next reads, her thumbs protesting like overcooked sprouts. One rainy evening, she opened Wuthering Heights to find a note tucked beside Heathcliff's Rage. Your Kathy wouldn't want you stuck on page novel, once a relic of loss, now pulsed with underlines and coffee stains, a living thing. Grief hadn't vanished. But between Marcus' terrible puns and Anjali's smuggled samosas, Clara discovered something sly, joy, creeping in like daylight through library blinds. By time their fam hit 20 members, she'd stopped counting days since James. Instead, she tracked how many dog-eared paperbacks fit on a shelf. Answer: never enough. Clara's arthritic fingers brushed dust off Wuthering Heights, its spine cracked like her own knees after decades of stubbornly refusing lifts. 60 years of life had taught her books outlasted people, yet here she stood, surrounded by both in a musty London bookshop, trying to stitch her grief into something less jagged. Book club had been her daughter's idea, whispered between morphine doses. Mum, you'll go mad talking to just cats. Creator had scoffed then, but now, clutching Emily Bronte like a shield, she eyed circle of mismatched chairs. A poster for community book swap, bring a story, leave a friend curled its edges. Dry humor nudged her, fitting, since her social skills felt equally sun-bleached. First meeting, she'd brought biscuits no one ate. Second, she'd mispronounced an author's name loud enough to make a grad student wince. Tonight, she'd vowed silence, but then Marjorie, 78, neon pink reading glasses, a laugh like a busted harmonica, thrust a dog-eared copy of Middlemarch into her hands. Your turn next week, love. No backing out. Clara's gut said run. Grief had carved her into a woman who forgot how to want things, but that novel in her bag. It had been her mum's, margins scribbled with opinions fiercer than text itself. A relic. A dare. She spent days rehearsing over tea gone cold, marking pages with grocery receipts. When her turn came, voice trembling, she didn't talk themes or metaphors. Instead, she read her mother's margin note beside Cathy's famous I am Heathcliff line, romantic codswallop. Try surviving a winter in Yorkshire without central heating. Room erupted, not in judgment, but recognition. Someone yelled preach. Another slapped knees. Later, swapping dog-eared paperbacks by till, she realized books were just excuses. What this fam traded was proof they'd loved, lost, and still showed up. Her daughter's absence ached, but here, between cracked spines and louder cracks about arthritis, grief became something shared. She left with a new novel tucked under her arm, its first page inscribed, "For woman who survived worse than Bronte's weather. M outside, rain slicked London streets into mirrors." Clara grinned, stepping over puddles with grace of someone who'd remembered how to move forward, stiff knees and all. Clara's arthritic fingers brushed dust off Wuthering Heights, its spine cracked like her own knees after decades of London rain. Tonight, grief wouldn't win. Not when dog-eared pages held more memories than empty teacups. She hauled that battered novel, her late husband's favorite, into a community center buzzing with skeptics and curious strangers. Between potted ferns and a wobbly display table, she staged her rebellion, a book swap where every dog-eared copy came with a story sharper than any eulogy. No sad violins, just spines cracked open like hearts. A millennial in Doc Martens scoffed until she slapped down Wuthering Heights beside a sticky note, "Heathcliff's tantrums got nothing on my Frank's snoring. Miss you, you old grouch." Laughter rippled. Then silence. Then, flash. Some influencer's phone captured creator mid-eye roll, her neon reading glasses perched crooked, that ancient novel glowing under fluorescent lights like Excalibur. By dawn, Graniget's grief had 50k likes. A BBC producer slid into her DMs. Even Marjorie from Post Office, who'd once called book clubs nonsense for bored housewives, brought a tattered Pride and Prejudice, whispering, "Darcy's brooding reminds me of my Harold." Woman smirked. 60 years old and suddenly queen of catharsis, her swap table now piled with paperbacks sticky with underlines and tear stains. That dog-eared Wuthering Heights? Front and center, its margins filled with Frank's messy pencil rants about Cathy's life choices. As applause erupted from a crowd clutching books like lifelines, Clara straightened her cardigan with a tiny, triumphant wobble. No lonely widow here, just a woman who turned grief into something with a waiting list. I finally belong here, she thought. And for once, ache in her hands felt like part of story. Clara's arthritic fingers brushed dust off Wuthering Heights, its spine cracked like her heart after losing Jim. But grief, she'd learned, wasn't a solo read. It begged for footnotes, margin scribbles, a chorus of voices. So she lugged that battered novel to her first book club meeting, where mismatched chairs circled like a ragtag fam of wounded warriors. Between sips of oversteeped Earl Grey, she confessed she'd never finished Bronte's masterpiece. Too bleak, she muttered. A retired librarian snorted, "Life's bleak, love. But we're here to dog-ear hell out of it." Weeks unfurled like well-thumbed pages. Clara swapped dog-eared mysteries for dog-eared romances, their community book swap, each trade a tiny rebellion against solitude. She hosted meetings in a musty indie bookshop, where sagging shelves whispered stories of their own. Odd habit? She'd sniff every book before reading, old paper smelled like time travel, she insisted. Members rolled eyes, then secretly did same. By spring, Clara wasn't just guiding discussions, she was stitching lives together. A young mum drowning in loss found solace in Anne of Green Gables. A gruff widower grudgingly adored Pride and Prejudice, fancy folks arguing, "What's new?" Even Wuthering Heights got its due pass to a teen who scribbled rage in its margins, then relief. Novel, once a relic of sorrow, became a baton in their relay toward light. London's drizzle couldn't dampen this. Clara, 60 and spry as a postscript, realized grief wasn't an epilogue, it was a prologue. Grab your tattered favorite, underline joy where you can.